in recession, but we believe it's already in recession, even though it's not met the technical requirements for a recession because of what we already see in the market. We had a shrinkage in manufacturing significant in the first quarter of this year. Now in the second quarter, we are already seeing telltale signs such as industries, manufacturing activities that require waste as inputs are not finding enough waste in the market to deliver those inputs for the production processes, which to us means that consumption has dropped to such a degree that we're going to experience some real difficulty going forward.
Now, the economy contracted in the first quarter. To what extent did this contribute to the manufacturing's possible recession, or recession, as you would put it?
You know, it's not necessarily because the economy contracted, but rather why it contracted. The economy contracted for no other reason than the platinum strike that we had. Platinum sector has got a massive impact on the economy. It's in mining, which is the first domino. If that falls, the rest of it falls together with it. As we discussed in the break time, every day that the platinum sector is not running 67 billion rand in purchases, that's not happening in the economy, and already 10 billion rand in wages have gone lost this year, which means that retail sector is struggling, retailers are not buying from manufacturers, and so on. Clothing, leather, footwear, all those manufacturing categories.
So it has a ripple effect through the entire chain, value chain, so to speak.
And very important for us to understand is that even though we're very, very glad and relieved that the platinum strike is now at an end, it could take up to a year for those mines to run at capacity again. It's going to take a very long time for us to recover.
And it'll also take, for the miners, it'll take a long time to recover because of lost salaries, I would imagine.
Yes, no, certainly. I mean, they are, unfortunately, one would have to say, at the losing end of all of this. Quite clearly, industrial action is being used to achieve political gains by the organized labor leadership. As long as the miners go along with that, they will be drawing at the short end of the stick.
But will the end of the platinum strike maybe ease the pressure on the manufacturing sector to a certain degree?
Well, it may, but unfortunately there's this very strong possibility that it will be supplanted, whatever relief there may be, by a strike in the metal sector. NUMSA is threatened to take 200,000 workers off production lines come 1st of July. We have seen situations where there are employers and employees who want to settle around certain wage offers, but because of centralized bargaining, are basically withheld from accepting those offers. Workers are being told that if they accept offers, they can't be guaranteed protection from intimidation and so on.
So, Coenraad, what needs to happen now in order to turn this around and change things for the manufacturing sector?
Well, I think, you know, there are a couple of things that we can do immediately. The intervention that there was at ministerial level during the platinum sector strike quite clearly had a positive effect. We would like to see more of that, quicker, not so late in the day. We know that there was an election, it was a very difficult period, but these kind of strong political leadership in this regard is very necessary. And then we need to start to tackle certain of the institutional aspects of our labor regime, which makes it very difficult for our economy to be kept safe and not to be held to ransom by unscrupulous union leaders. And some of those include steps to protect workers against intimidation. That we will be discussing. We are hoping to discuss that at ministerial level from the manufacturing circle side. And I'm quite certain that a number of employers would support dilution of the centralized bargaining system because it makes it impossible for labor and workers, labor and business to partner at company or factory level.
Now, the latest data also show from the Bureau for Economic Research also show that confidence in the sector has also taken a slump. What has caused that?
Well, overall, the business confidence index of the BER is not that great, but the manufacturing sub-index went from 25 to around about 44, I think. And the reason for that is because a lot of our manufacturing market is still, the market for our goods that we manufacture is still in South Africa. Only about 5% of our manufacturers are dynamic exporters. The domestic market is quite concentrated, which means that it's easy for manufacturers to compete here. But if the domestic market's not doing well, it's very difficult for them to move outside of our domestic market because of infrastructure constraints, because of things like electricity and so on. It makes it difficult for them to satisfy demand consistently, and of course market access. It's still very difficult going into Africa. Chinese, South America is not buying from us. We're losing our foothold in places like Europe and America because of the instability in our domestic market.
And then, of course, we have Eskom, which has also got problems in terms of in terms of keeping the lights on. Does that also impact on the industry?
Yes, it does. But I mean, on a lighter note, I saw some Nigerian girls, schoolgirls, develop this machine where you use urine to generate electricity. Perhaps that's something we should look at.
Okay. How does this all now impact on the man in the street?
Well, I think the difficulty is going to be that there will be, if manufacturing output suffers, it will mean that there will be quite possibly a greater deficit on our current account. That will put pressure on interest rates, which will make it much more difficult for the consumer. There are also some of our workers that stand to lose their jobs because some of our manufacturers are looking at importing their requirements, mechanizing, or closing down certain capacity to maintain their competitiveness. And that will certainly make it more difficult.
Coenraad, thank you so much for joining us here in studio and joining us on AM News.
Thanks.
All right. That was Coenraad Bezuidenhout, the Executive Director at the Manufacturing Circle. Now, it all impacts you directly.